paid. Trying to figure out exactly what that is at this point. These are numbers right off the balance sheet. But then you can see a growth for 2005, 2006, 2007, 2008. What we have outstanding now, $608,000 in taxes. These are taxes that have not paid. We haven't gone through foreclosures yet, but these are delinquent tax bills. The one thing you need to know is that the liens which are put on by the treasurer's office aren't necessarily done in lockstep. So as you see, from 2004 to 2005, there was a big jump, and then 2006 there wasn't. Some of that may be timing. Bottom line is it's growing. Questions about that?
Do you know, or someone else that's maybe here know, is there a process in terms of a tax lien and a process for tax taking? Is there a timing? Is there a process in place for that?
Joe, do you want to take that?
There is a process. We don't really like to foreclose on property unless we really have to. That's why you probably see in the next slide, it's been pretty constant the last several years.
What?
But real estate, usually at the end, usually after 1 year, it'll go into official tax title or tax lien.
After 1 year?
1 year, no more than that.
At what point in time can you put the tax lien on?
How long do you have to wait? I'm not sure. I don't recall.
Okay.
Steve, were you going to ask a question?
No.
Next item is foreclosures, and these numbers are pretty much constant. And basically what it says is that we've got a number of foreclosures filed, and it's not growing very much, but it's also additional money going beyond the liens that we could have had if we didn't have this problem. The fact that it hasn't grown, dropped off a little bit, meaning we recently did get a settlement, but I'm not sure it was on the lien, it was on the deferred tax program.
No, there was a settlement. I don't know what the first one was.
Oh, yes, right, which is why that maybe dropped that.
Right.
Was for
34, something like 34,000 or something like that? Wasn't.
Um,
I think it's what it was. It was in the low 30s.
yeah.
Enough to catch our attention. It's in the low 30s.
Bob, I'm sorry, I don't quite fully understand this slide here. Can you just go over it again?
This is off the balance sheet for each of the fiscal years. This is the cumulative number. And what is on the books for foreclosures.
So this is an asset on the balance sheet that we actually haven't collected on yet.
Correct.
And as far as aggressiveness in collecting, I mean, once it gets to this point, we own it. So the only way we're going to recoup is to sell.
Yeah, but we can sell the homeowner deed.
I understand, and that one particular. But the rest of this is a lot of these small parcels of town-owned land that we have that are probably on the books for years, correct? So, I mean, the likelihood of us collecting this money, unless this board takes some real aggressive action in disposing of town-owned land, which I don't think will even come close to recouping anywhere near that. So this number really isn't a realistic figure that's collectible. Correct? I mean, we kind of carry this, and I think the reason that it's pretty steady is because whatever the assessed value on those properties are, or whatever was owed on those properties, remains constant. You're not accumulating interest on this too, are we? Once we own it, we own it. Once we own it, we own it. So that's why it's relatively constant. That reflects that list of town-owned land that we have every year that we look at. That's why it's steady, because we haven't disposed of anything. The only reduction that we had recently was in this past year, one parcel. So this isn't going to change, and that isn't going to help us to any great degree, because the likelihood of us collecting that amount probably slim and none.
Proposing that we're gonna help Steve.
No, I'm just, well, you're looking at it as maybe, but you're looking at it as an asset supposedly on the balance sheet, that really,
We're never gonna realize it.
you're never gonna realize it.
So maybe we have to be more proactive in terms of putting these back on
So,
the tax roll by selling.
again, for another day, I guess, as far as, looking at our policy and selling things at assessed value, we're best just to get these things off of the books and back on the tax rolls,
Right.
and generate some revenue.
And then, another trend, these are bank foreclosures on homes in town, does not necessarily have any real impact on the town from the fact that the banks typically will pay the taxes. So, but it shows a trend, kind of an alarming trend. In 2005, there weren't any bank foreclosures. 2006, there were 7. 2007, there were 9. These are calendar years, by the way, instead of fiscal years. And half of 2008, there was 8. Only half of this. It's not a good trend. Anyway, this is food for thought associated with, anyone else want to go back on anything?
No, but I spoke with the town administrator today, and I'm sure he spoke with Joe. We are gonna get an explanation of the $500,000
Yes.
that was turned back at some point, so that we can identify how that came to fruition.
And we will need that associated with the budget process. And also, trying to decide on what additional action we should take for the 2009 budget.
Yeah, the current year budget.
Bob, just in terms of priority two, the deferred school department, small cap, I believe you said that's coming from the adjustment made based upon change in staff
It's got to
between
do with change, they had a significant change in staff, which yielded in a,
that $50,000
I think it yielded in
more, but that's what they're allotting to
That's
put
what
back.
They've offered.
they formally offered to, cover.
Did I know?
They're gonna go out and buy those capital items within their budget.
That's interesting.
So I thought that would be good background, and certainly related to the October town meeting articles. There was concern at our last meeting about funding. We were negative
Any
on
of those.
priority one.
Thank you.
Fortunately, Mr. Hamlin is here, I think. Did I see him?
Yes.
He's right there.
Yeah. We have to thank him for managing that fund. Otherwise, we would be scrambling for. Allison, could you pass that pen over? Thank you. So we're about ready for the public
Yes.
hearing, right?
Yes,
Right
we
on
are.
time,
Yeah.
more or less. So I'll open up our informational hearings on the town meeting warrant articles. And it would be the intent for those articles that we haven't recommended to take a position on them or not as we go through them. We'll start with Article 1. And, we haven't voted on any of these, right, officially?
You have not, but we presumed in this
Right,
case,
okay.
how we recommend.
So on Article 1, I have a motion to recommend.
Second. Oh, you want a motion, I'm sorry.
I'm waiting for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to recommend Article 1.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Harris, second by Mr. Vino. Discussion, this is just to hear the reports of town offices and committees. Do we have any notice of any specific committees at this
Not at
point?
this time, but typically they don't come in until right before town meeting.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So that'll be recommended. The next one is fund the snow and ice deficit. It's $341,778, and it's going to come from,
Well, the majority of it is gonna come from the dairy permit fund. The remaining portion, we will,
come from free cash.
come from free cash or one of the other available sources of funds.
Okay. So not, from a number point of view of what I presented this evening, basically, it's covered.
Within what you presented.
Mr. Hamlin, you have any comments regarding snow and ice?
I hope you're gonna minimize it this coming year, I hope.
Oh, absolutely.
All right.
I happened to be at a Public Works general meeting I was invited to back at the beginning of winter. And Mr. Hanlon is not the one you want to make weather forecasts. I won't forget it. You wouldn't have won the bet, I think, no. Okay, so I'll entertain a motion for recommendation on snow and ice.
Chairman, I move to recommend Article 2.
Second, I'm sorry.
Motion made by Mr. Harris, seconded by Mr. Delaney. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and the Finance Committee's already voted on this, Mr. Jones? I'm sorry, yes. Any questions from the audience? I'm sorry, I should have asked before. All right. Establish a fuel and utilities reserve fund. The intent here, as I mentioned earlier, is to create a special utilities reserve fund under the control of the Finance Committee for the purposes of funding any shortfalls in both school and municipal fuel and utility costs for this current fiscal year, of which we anticipate there will be some. And again, the Finance Committee is recommending that. And the sources of funding for that sources of funding of that will be a combination of free cash and other available funds. Okay, I'll entertain a motion for Article 3.
Mr. Chairman, I move to recommend Article 3.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Harris, seconded by Mr. Vino. Further discussion? Any questions in the audience? All in favor?
Aye.
This is about how fast it should go at town meeting, too.
Not quite.
Okay, transfer funds to the Capital Stabilization Fund. And that's the total of about 1.7 mil.
Okay, I just want to make reference to, under the description, the amount is 1,717,000. That'll be changed.
Right. Does that match the number I presented this
It does,
evening? Yeah.
1,717,000.
717
000.
000. Okay, any questions regarding the Capital Stabilization Fund? Entertain a motion, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Chairman, I move to recommend Article 4.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Harris, seconded by Mr. Vino. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? Article 5, amend the FY 2009 operating budget. Mr. Milliconis.
Where we hope to transfer the monies for the small capital to the municipal departments.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm informed that we also have a reduction in the appropriation for debt service, and there needs to be a revote on the article for the recreation salaries. And Joe, I don't know if you can help me on any of those two.
Well, the debt reduction is, some exempt debt that we had voted, on the back school.
Because of the $5 million payment?
Pay down.
Mhm.
Need this additional pay down. So that's gonna go away. Doesn't help the budget, but it helps the tax.
And when will citizens see the impact of that on their tax bill? Is that an adjustment that's made, or?
The amount that's being reduced,
Yes.
well, it's not gonna be something that's true.
They haven't felt it yet.
It's fiscal year 2009.
We've been banned up to this point. So they haven't, we haven't fully financed it yet, so the full
No, but the
impact never
band
hit.
payment is being